Jahangir Aziz is now joining in. He's the head of emerging markets economic research at JPMorgan, one of the sharpest minds when it comes to macros in India, emerging markets. Jahangir, thank you very much for joining in. Well, we've been dealing with tariffs now for close to a year, but the chaos and uncertainty just continues. Give us your updated assessment of the situation right now.
Look, we've been flagging this for a while now. So, conversations with you and your co-anchors running for almost like 3-4 months, this was always a very clear possibility that the IEEPA tariffs would be invalidated by the Supreme Court. Now, it took some time. The hearing was in November, and we have only got the judgment only last week. But this was something that the market had anticipated. In fact, the poly market had 75% probability that this was going to happen. And also the steps that would immediately follow, which is use Section 122 as the first reaction. That too was anticipated by the market. So I think in the market per se, even though there is heightened uncertainty, I think the level of concern is far less in the sense that it has proceeded broadly according to what people had assumed would happen. I think what happens now is, where does Section 122 roll into? What happens to 301, Section 301 and Section 232 as it is used to essentially take over from Section 122 when the 150 days are over? And I think that's where the concern is and the uncertainty is.
Yeah. Jahangir, that tweet, that post which President Trump put out, right, which is, beware and any countries which decide to change up or back away from deals. I mean, what did you make of it? Many I don't know why, but many people on social media were saying, well, this is directed at not this one. This is the wrong one. This is not the social media post. This is something else. This is with regards to US politics. The one where he's talking about any country which wants to
play with the ridiculous Supreme Court decision. That one. Yeah.
That one. We'll put that up.
Look.
Right. Many people were saying that's to do with India. I mean, I don't know why. Did you read it that way?
No, I did not. Look, I mean, India is important, but it's not that important that he has to tweet about India, about tariffs in general. So I think it was meant for European Union, which is the one which has the largest trade deficit with the US, is the largest trading partner. It is the European Union where the US has blamed it for dragging his feet all of these months because it wasn't signing the trade deal or wasn't completing the trade deal. So the problem, Prashant, is the following, right? You have trade deals, but none of the trade deals are trade agreements because none of these trade deals have been ratified either by the trading partners, parliaments or legislatures, or by the US Congress. So if you do not have a trade agreement, you just have a trade deal, and the legal basis of that trade deal is invalidated, then I'm guessing so is the trade deal. So I think it has to be negotiated. We will have to see what are the tariffs under Sections 301 and 232 that are used to replace it. The ability to engineer or to calibrate Section 301 and Section 232 to conform to specific country circumstances is far more difficult than IEEPA tariffs and far more cumbersome and time-consuming. So I don't think it's going to be an easy task to have country-specific negotiated deals, the manner in which IEEPA tariffs were used. I think it's going to be a long, drawn process, and we'll have to wait for a considerable period of time before we get any kind of clarity on what the final quote-unquote trade deals are and whether they ever get converted into trade agreements.
Yeah, just one point. So what you're saying, we'll live with 15%, maybe an extension of 15%. So 15% for the rest of the year, that is what you should assume?
No, I think 15% for 150 days. It is very unlikely that after 150 days, the U.S. Congress is going to extend the
so 15%
timing for 150 days.
15% till late July, and by then these 301s will kick in. That's what you're saying?
Or 232s, whichever ones you want, they want to use for whichever countries.
But the final end state tariffs will be around where they are before the Supreme Court ruling. That's the way to look at it, you're saying?
That's the way we are thinking about it as a baseline. That ultimately you are going to end up somewhere in the same vicinity. The specific items may be different. Gems and jewelry might be slightly different from what we have now from agricultural products, etc. But I think on average, that's what we should be looking towards.
Hi, Jahangir. Good to see you. And Jahangir, from an India perspective, we waited a long time to get some kind of a deal. And once we get the deal, there's so much of movement. What do you think? We're better placed now in comparison to what we got earlier this month? Or, because there is plenty of debate out there, a lot feel that we are actually not better placed in comparison to the rest of the globe. Well, there's a very, very strong thought as well that we are much better placed. Your take?
Look, I mean, we had average tariff about, 19%. If you take all the tariffs together, we are probably going to pay about the similar amounts. Remember, the tariffs that we were paying prior to this, under the different most favored nation status categories, those tariffs remain untouched. This is the tariff over and above that. So, we are probably going to pay slightly less than that. 15, 16, 17%. We haven't really worked out the average tariff rate with the exemptions. These tariff rates are slightly lower. And my guess is that in some categories, and this is where things become interesting, some categories, such as textiles, gems and jewelry, machinery, especially the smaller machineries, non-electronic smaller machineries, where India actually exports a lot to the US. My guess is that you are going to see in these 150 days a significant import front-loading taking place, and that will be good for Indian exports in these categories. Now, in the long term, Nigel, we'll have to wait and see where the dust settles.
No, absolutely. Jahangir, lots of questions, a lot more questions, but we can go on and on, right? But you can go in so many different directions on this one. Thank you very much for joining us. And it's an interesting time, too interesting, I dare say, and not a moment to rest. Thank you for being here with us, as always. Well, time.